Google Pest Control Marketer. Grow your business like never before. Call 770-993-0004.
Well, hello, folks. I am Hal Coleman, and I'm here with my ever-present, effervescent, always pleasant sidekick, Mike Stewart, Mr. Online, and we're here to present you with another episode of Pest Control Marketing Live and the Pest Control Marketing Podcast. It's the only live streaming internet TV show in the world totally devoted to helping PCOs and WCOs make the phone ring, make more sales, close more deals, and make more trips to the bank with deposits. Does that sound about right, Mike?
Well, that's exactly what it is. Is if you don't do something to work on your business and all you do is work in your business, it's only going to get as good as fate and the good Lord will give you. And sometimes the commands are you gotta move with your feet to make things happen. So we're talking about.
I had a salesman one time when I used to work for Arrow Exterminators. There was a guy there named Gerald Ellerby. Now I had gone to work for them. I'd been a regulatory agent in the pest control business for 10 years. And finally, the owner of Arrow Exterminators made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I left and went to work for him. Had a great 6 years there. Great company, great people. And they had a salesman there at the time who was probably in his 60s maybe or 50s. He seemed like an old guy to me, but looking back, when I was 34 years old. But his name was Gerald Ellerby, and he had retired from Orkin after many years. Used to work with Otto Orkin. And they had 5 guys that were the salespeople for Orkin. I mean, this is like, they're headquartered in Atlanta. They're worldwide now, but these guys were known as the Big Five.
The Big Five.
Huh? Big Five. And they were the kings of sales at Orkin. And Gerald and I just became fast friends. He knew me from back when I was a regulatory agent, but when I went to work, and Gerald kind of talked like this, and one day I met him coming across the parking lot, and he said, "How's it going, Coleman? How's it going? You doing good? You making money?" I said, "I'm doing all right, Gerald." And he said, "I'm going to tell you something about this business." He said, "You got to keep your feet moving if you want to put a jingle in your pocket." And I never forgot that, and when he said that, of course, that's when everybody carried change in their pockets. Everybody always had change in their pockets because you could buy a lot of things for less than $1.
Oh, yeah.
37 cents or 59 cents. So everybody had change in their pocket. And a lot of people, just kind of a nervous habit, would sit around with their hand in their pocket jingling that change, So he said, "You want to make money, you got to keep your feet moving if you want to put a jingle in your pocket."
Well,
what great advice that was, and I've never forgotten it, and I share that quite often. But that was
there's so many wisdom sayings, about that, So anyway, that's what you made me think of it, and the thing is, what we do is a lot of people go, well, okay, if I'm supposed to do something, what are some things to do? A lot of people are willing to do stuff, but they don't know what to do. So that's why we do this, because we've learned some things that have worked for others. And when something works for one person, it'll work for everyone. And when it doesn't work well, then, there's an old saying that we used to do in the internet marketing: if it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't, stop. I mean,
that's good advice. And what I want to talk about today, before we get sidetracked and I lead us or one of us leads the other one down a rabbit hole.
I'll get out of that rabbit hole.
Something that's very pertinent. And you and I both have been in the music business for many, many years. You've actually been in the music business longer than I have, because that's the only business you've ever really been in. You never had a job or anything. You just started playing music and making a living when you were a teenager. But both spent time in Nashville. And back in the 80s when I aspired to be a hit songwriter, and I was fortunate enough to have a couple of hit songs. I had one
You had a #1 record. You
one
should be
number
proud
one
of it.
record. Yeah. A friend of mine called me, said, I was in Hawaii last week in Oahu going down the road, listening to the radio, and there your song came on.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool, you know. But anyway, I wrote a song, and I was with I had a meeting with a publisher up in Nashville, and I sat down to play this song. You know, you'd go in and give them a cassette, and they'd say, you got a song for me today? Yeah. And they'd take it and they'd turn around and, you know, put it in their cassette machine, and you'd hand them a lyric sheet, and they would open it up, and they'd be sitting there reading the lyrics while they listened to the song. And, you know, then they would give you, unfortunately, they would give you their honest opinion of the song, you know, and it usually was not good, but sometimes it was good. And they heard millions of songs. But anyway, he played this song, and he got about halfway through the song, and he reached around there and he stopped the cassette, and he said, and he had my lyric sheet. He said, what did you mean by this line right here when you said that? And I said, and I don't remember the line. I said, well, I meant so-and-so, probably had something to do with, I don't even remember what it was. But he said, what did you mean by this line? And I said, well, what I meant was, and I told him, he said, well, why didn't you come out and say that? And I said, well, it's kind of bold. I said, if I said it, I was afraid it might, you know, offend somebody, or might be taken wrong or something. He just kind of kicked back, like, he said, let me tell you something. He said, I want to ask you a question. He said, what does Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Kenny Rogers, and Waylon Jennings all have in common?
I know the answer.
Well, they're all major stars. I mean, at that time, they were all in the peak of their career. I said, they're all major stars. He said, that's true. But he said something else that helped get them there. I said, well, I know you're going somewhere with this, so tell me. And he said, well, they don't sound like anybody else. He said, when you hear Johnny Cash start to sing a song on the radio, and back then there was no internet, it was radio. He said, when you hear Johnny Cash come on singing a song, or Willie Nelson, you don't think, who is that? He said, their voices, and Kenny Rogers, they're so distinct that they're unmistakable when you hear them. And he said, because of that, because they don't sound like a lot of other people, and they're not middle of the road, and they're so distinct, he said, people either love them or they hate them. He said, they're like liver. You don't ever hear anybody say, you know, do you like liver? Oh, I can take it or leave it. You know, nobody's ever said that in history. You either love liver or you hate liver.
Right.
It's because it's so out there. It's got such a distinct, bold flavor to it. And he said, that's the way these guys are. And he said, I'm going to be frank with you. He said, you know, people either love them or hate them. He said, we don't give a damn about the people that hate them. He said, we just want to make millions of dollars from the people that love them.
Yep.
And I really thought about that. And it brings me kind of back because I keep seeing this same premise reveal itself all throughout the industry that I work in and that you work in a lot, which is the pest control industry. We try to be that sound alike, that nondescript kind of sound. You know, we don't want to do anything that might be too far out there, might offend somebody or cause somebody to say, I don't know how you did that. And I'm going to give you my first example, which is with vehicle design, which I help all my clients design their vehicles. And a lot of them go from a nondescript little sign, you know, that you can barely read or has the name of the company. And so I help them redesign it so that it's really loud and big. And you see it going down the road, you go, you know, you take a double take and look at it, or the kids say, look at that vehicle, mommy, look at that truck. It's got big bugs on it. And the words pest control are big, and it's got animals and rats and things on it. And when they do that, when they redesign that vehicle, 100% of the time that anybody's ever done it that's been a client of mine, and I did it myself when I had my business, when they do that, the calls start increasing and the sales increase because of that vehicle. I teach them to track everything. And I'll say, how many calls were you getting? And you say, how did you hear about me? And they said, well, I see your vehicles all over town. How many were you getting before? They said, I never got any like that before. I never hardly ever had anybody mention my vehicles, maybe every now and then. And I said, what's happened now that you've redesigned it and made it big and loud and kind of outrageous? They say, I get calls all the time. A guy just told me the other day, he said, I probably get at least 2 calls a week, make 2 sales a week from people that said, I saw your vehicle. Now, I had one that I helped one of our clients design over in Alabama, and he submitted it to the PCT Magazine annual vehicle design contest and won runner up. First, he didn't get first place, but he was like runner up. And so he only had another guy only has 1 truck, and we redesigned it and made it big. And he said, I tell people all the time, they said, I see your trucks all over town. And he said, that's funny because I only have 1 truck. But they see it. It's so memorable that when they see it, if they see it the next day or later, that they just think they think he's got a fleet of trucks out there and he only has 1 truck. But my point is, I have had countless times people say, oh, that doesn't work. I would never put bugs and stuff all over my truck and all, because people don't want that in their driveway. People don't want a pest control company pulling up in their driveway. And I'm like, well, I guess I can understand why you think that, because maybe you've been told that. But I can honestly say that of all my clients that have ever redesigned vehicle for, including when I had my pest control business, I put bugs all over mine and rats and never did I have anybody say, don't come to my house with that vehicle. I don't want anybody to see that vehicle in my house. I never had it one single time. And I ask my clients about it because this subject comes up, and they say, I've never had anybody tell me not to drive my truck out there. So if somebody does complain about it, we don't give a damn about the people that might complain about it, so to speak. Like that music publisher told me, if 2 or 3 people complain about your truck, let them complain about it. They might not become your customer because you had a truck with bugs on it. But tons of other people are going to become your customer because you had the bugs on it. So you can't, my title for this that I'm getting back around to now, Mike, and I'm going to let you take it and run with it, is that market to the people who like what you're doing and love what you're doing and are giving you the thumbs up and the salute, and don't worry about the small percentage of people that might not like it or might be offended or might, but I see so many people, I'll say, why don't you do this? I say, well, I'm afraid somebody might take that the wrong way. Somebody might be offended by that. So I said, you're missing a great marketing opportunity, a great opportunity to increase your sales and get more customers because you're afraid you might offend somebody. And Dan Kennedy, you're familiar with him, and a lot of the people that our listeners might not be, but they should be, but probably the greatest direct response marketer of all time. I think he's up to how many books now? 27 books he's written or something. And they call him the millionaire maker because he is able to look at any business and tell you how to get that psychological direct response message incorporated into your business and move it forward. And he teaches people how to sell. He's just incredible. He's been a mentor of mine for many, many, many years. And but I heard him say more than once, and it's in his book too. He said, if you haven't offended at least one person by lunchtime every day, you're leaving a heck of a lot of money laying on the table. You're missing a
Yeah.
lot of sales. So it's like being bold. And I have a friend who just passed away last year. He was 93 years old. I'd known him. His son and I were roommates in college and friends in high school, still friends. And this guy worked for a large life insurance company. Uh, and one year he was the number one salesman in the nation. Uh, but he was with them for many years. But he was bold, a bold salesperson, and and had tons of friends, and he was a hunter and a fisherman and all, and sold more insurance than just about anybody in the country every year. But because he was bold and aggressive, I guess you could say, there were people that couldn't stand him. There were a few people that couldn't stand him. They said, I can't stand to be in the same room with that guy. Why? Oh, he tried to sell me insurance one time. I told him I didn't want any, and he just kept bugging me and. So I'm not saying you got to bug people, but I'm saying he didn't design his career and his message and his endeavors around whether or not he might say something to the wrong person the wrong way and they get upset with him, cuss him out. He probably got cussed out a lot of times. But he lived in a nice house here, had a $2 million house up in the mountains, and lived a lifestyle that a lot of people and tons of friends and family and so you got to quit worrying about the people that woke up this morning saying, what can I be offended by today? Let me go find something to complain about today. Lord, send me forth today. Show me the things that I need to complain about and bitch and moan about. And a lot of people do, Mike, design their marketing and their strategies around those people without even realizing it. They just hold themselves back. They keep their head sucked in like a turtle to keep from sticking it out because they might offend those people. And that's just not, that will hold you back and keep you down and cause you to stay stuck in your career forever. If that's the way you, in your business, you'll find it harder to grow, slower to grow, and you miss a lot of opportunities by trying to design your marketing around the complainers and the naysayers and the jerks. So agree, disagree with me, Mike, take off. And I know you got a lot to say about this.
Well, I mean, we've heard it over the years at seminars and at marketing seminars. And one of the things that really resonates with what you're saying today is love me, hate me. There's no money in the middle. In other words, when you try to please everybody rather than being unique and bold and yourself and something that makes you stand out, anything that makes you stand out, anything that the status quo is not doing could make you stand out. I mean, I can talk about thousands of examples where people did things that they were advised was a bad idea, but they did it and it made a difference. So just remember that. Love me, hate me. There is no money in the middle. So that was a famous thing. And then we always used to say, do what you fear. If you expect to be successful, do things you fear. And I actually had a client one time. I said, you need to get in front of a webcam and make content for YouTube and TikTok and all the technologies. You need to be able to talk to, like we're doing right now, talk to the lens of a camera so that you can share your message while you sleep electronically to the world or to your local market. You get to choose. He says, I don't like how I look. I'm embarrassed how I look. I'm scared to do these videos. I think I look like a fool. I'm scared what people will say. He feared it.
Well, it's a good thing you and me don't fear that.
Well, I don't.
I know I scare people. I got the perfect face for radio.
Well, and I do too as well, but I don't care because when you're out in the world, you're in front of two television cameras called people's eyes. They see you. Unless you're going to be a hermit in a room and never interact with any human being on the planet, people are going to see you no matter what you look like. So do what you fear. I don't know technology. I'm scared of technology. Well, get over it. Get over that fear. So do things that others don't do. When you do what others don't do, then you can, I remember you talked about with especially the example of the bugs on the truck. Well, I don't want to do that because that'll offend somebody. Well, you know what? Don't do what everybody else does. You used to call it what, lemonade for, or Larry Latterman called it lemonade for 50 cents.
No, I've called it that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll give credit where credit's due. But the point I'm getting at is when you just want to be the status quo and you don't want to do anything and you don't want to try anything that everybody else isn't doing for fear or disbelief. A good mentor of mine, John Reese, who was a millionaire marketer, he said, we don't know what works. So you test it. He said, you try it. If it works, you do more of it. If it doesn't work, you stop. And so you got to ask yourself, what are you doing that everybody else isn't doing? What does your shirts look like? What does your logo look like? What do your business cards look like? What advertising? I tell people now, there's the big three to being known and thought of and top of mind in a market. Big three things. Number one is they call them reputation marketing, or Google reviews, or Facebook reviews, or Yelp reviews, where the people brag about you. They're like testimonials, but they're public forums that people believe in. When they see a bad review on Yelp or Facebook, or especially Google My Business, they see that bad review. It could be a lie, but they believe it. So you have got to maximize those areas with nothing but positive. You got to. Well, I can't get reviews. I hear this all the time. I can't. I ask people for them and they don't do it. Well, keep asking. Well, I just don't want to bother people. That's fear. Get over it. We've got clients that it is a priority every day of their business to get a higher reputation. Number two, content creation. The internet, when the internet came out, and it's really when media came out, content is king. You proved it years ago. Your Yellow Page ad that you spent a lot of money on didn't perform well. And then you redid it, and the expert told you that you're nuts doing this. And you could have been scared and said, well, yeah, nobody's ever done anything like I'm doing. I'll do what you recommend. Thank God you didn't do it, because it worked. You tried something that other people weren't. You stood out. You were bold, and that's where the don't be fearful. Don't do what everybody else does. Try things. You can always stop. Don't do anything slanderous or really to the point where you could have the world turn on you. Yeah, but you don't have to do political or commentary. You're just talking about exterminating bugs. So do things that others don't do. And like you said, is when you're willing to do all these things. And then the third thing is advertising. I had a sign company friend of mine that was a great networker, and their elevator speech said, "A business with no signs is a sign of no business." Yeah. And so a business that doesn't advertise is the sign of a business that doesn't grow. You've got to pay to get eyes and ears to your marketing message. And of course, you can spend a lot of money and by doing what everybody else does, because then you blend in. But when you do things that other people don't do, you can stand above the crowd and become memorable in your local market. So the big three is reputation marketing, content marketing, and paid marketing. And you've got to do a little bit of it's 1,000 little things tweaked on those three big areas. And if you just want to be lemonade for 50 cents, just like everybody else in the world, you're just you're another number. Don't be another number. Be that person that stands out. And that's all I got to say. As far as Trump said, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, yeah. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to tick somebody off. or offend somebody. You know, when you built me my first website, Mike, I'm gonna take you back now 20 something years. It was in the early 90s, so it was going on 30 years ago. You built me my first website for my pest control business, and it was a WordPress site, as I remember, and I could write articles and post. Taught me how to write articles and post them on there. So I started writing articles, and I came up with a little. I just decided to go bold with it one day, and I put this article on my, and over on the sidebar on the left was the titles of all my articles. So if when you landed on my home page, they could see those, you know, and eventually they got archived, but probably the last 5 or 6 articles were always right there visible on the sidebar on the left. So I wrote a little article one day called, the title was Improve Your Sex Life with Quarterly Pest Control Service.
Oh, you could offend somebody with that.
And the gist of it was that you can't, it really damages your sex life if you have bugs and rats and things in the house, because they're crawling around and your wife or your spouse is going to be upset and in a bad mood all the time. And so if you get rid of all the bugs and everything, now you can bring the romance. So I think my tagline was, so call us today and we'll bring you a bottle of champagne. So there was nothing crude or rude in there or anything, but I'm going to give you 2 examples. One lady, we went out to her house and she asked my technician, said, let me ask you, why did your boss put that article about your sex life on your website? And he said, well, he just wanted to. He said, did it offend you? And she said, well, I wouldn't say I was offended by it, but I just think it was probably inappropriate. He said, well, I'll pass that along. Now, she stayed my customer, you know, and it was great. But he came in one day and I sold a quarterly pest control service over the phone. And he went out there to check it. And he said, the guy was working in the yard. And when he got there, he said, I got out of my truck and the guy came walking over to me with a smile on his face. And he said, let me ask you something. He said, did your boss write that article on your website about improving your sex life with quarterly pest control? He said, yes, sir. He said, by golly. He said, when I read that, I knew right then y'all were the folks I wanted to do business with. He said, I just love that. So I wrote another article and put it on there. Cut your whiter teeth in 30 days or less with quarterly pest control. And the gist of it was that if you got bugs in the house, you're going to be frowning all the time. And you're not going to worry about what your smile looks like because nobody's ever going to see your teeth. But if you get quarterly pest control and we get rid of all your bugs, you're going to be smiling and grinning all the time. You're going to become self-conscious about your teeth. So you're going to go get them whitened and clean. So then I wrote a third one, reduce your rate of heart attack and stroke with quarterly pest control service. And I said, you know, if you got bugs in the house, your heart rate's going to be up. You're going to have anxiety all the time. You're going to suffer from depression and everything. And these things lead to stroke, heart attack, and other illnesses. But if we come out and get rid of all your bugs, your anxiety is going to disappear. So you see, I just got on a roll there, and people loved that stuff. I'm sure there were people that just thought it was crude and rude, but it just kind of made me a little celebrity there among my clients. And so don't be afraid you're going to offend somebody. If you're not offending somebody along the way, you're really not doing anything much. You're staying in the box with everybody else in there, and you're afraid to stick your nose out because somebody might say you got an ugly nose. So you just you got to go for it, and it will set you. Then you become a rock star in your niche, and people really are attracted to that, and not everybody. A few people will be repelled by it, but build your marketing around the people who are going to be your raving fans, and it will never be a mistake. It'll be the best thing you ever did. So, with that, Mike, you got anything else you want to add?
No, I think we're at a point here that we've kind of conveyed the message. Just be different, be bold, stand out, and do something different. And I'll tell you something different that I want to talk about for about 30 seconds here. If you don't take the time and call Hal Coleman at 770-993-0004. That's right. I'll say that number again slowly. 770-993-0004. And take him up on his free 1 hour. He charges a lot of money an hour. Hell, it goes up every minute. Last time I checked, I thought it was one price and he had doubled it. So to get a free hour with his years of out of the box thinking and ideas to, if you're willing to do something but don't know what to do, give Hal a call. Email him at hal@halcoleman.com. Take him up on his free hour. Or if you just want to know a little bit more about Hal before you call him, go to howtogrowapestcontrolbusiness.com, download his free book, and read the thing. Read the book. You can buy it at Amazon if you want to hold it in your hands with a printed version. Some people like to have printed books, but if you can deal with a download ebook, go to How to Grow a Pest Control Business. But those two resources, my gosh, we're advertising here to something here that we're willing to give you with no expectations, no alternate tricks, no gimmies, no lost leaders, no whatever those words they call, bait and switch, all that stuff. None of that. You got to do business with somebody you know, like, and trust. And let me ask you, do you have a business coach that can tell you what to do and how to do it and make it measurable success? Well, how's somebody to do that? And let's see what Hal has to say about me if you call me.
Call Mike Stewart, 770-826-3662.
Now, slow down, Hal. That's way too
fast. Hal
fast.
told you to call and get a free hot dog and an order of fries. No, listen, Mike, the same thing that you said about me pertains to you. I mean, I talk to people and I have people call and they want to get in my coaching program sometimes. And, I send them a questionnaire before we do anything, about a dozen questions, find out how they're marketing and advertising, how they're growing, different obstacles they face. And they'll talk about my coaching program. I say, right now, you don't need to be in my coaching program until you have a conversation with Mike Stewart about your online presence, because your online presence has so many problems. I think that may be more important than being in my coaching program right now. But I tell him, he'll talk to you just like I did. It won't cost you a penny. He'll spend time. He'll look at your website. He'll give you some great advice, great insights, and it's not going to cost you anything. And then you can decide whether you want help with it or not. But nobody's going to try to trick you into anything or sell you into a program that we know you wouldn't be happy with. My just like yours, Mike, my entire marketing is, if you go to my website, pestcontrolmarketer.com, and scroll down, you'll see testimonials from dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of my current and former coaching clients, and read what they have to say. And they all have their phone numbers on there. They agreed to give me their phone numbers. So if you want to call them and talk to them, call them and talk to them. But my entire existence is based on people saying good things about me, how much I helped them. So if I think I can't help you, if I think I can't get a glowing testimonial from you in a few months or in a year, I wouldn't dare take you into my program, because that's just kind of my measuring stick is, can I help this person enough so that they would give me a glowing testimonial and talk about all the things I did for them. And if I think that I can do that, then I'll talk to you about getting in the program. But if I say, no, I can't. And sometimes it's a philosophical difference. I had you and I are often raving about Think and Grow Rich. And there aren't many huge, ultra successful people in business who haven't stumbled across Think and Grow Rich. I talked to somebody the other day that said they'd probably read it 20 times over the last 30 years. And people credit that book with changing their lives. And so I had a free session with a guy, and we talked, and everything was going good. And he said, I'm a big reader. He said, I love to read. Is there any books you could recommend that I go out and read? And I said, yeah. I said, the first one that comes to mind is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He said, oh, I don't like that book. He said, I disagree with a lot of stuff in that book. He said, a lot of stuff. I said, well, I disagree with some of it. I don't agree with everything anybody says. But he said, no, I come from a different background. I'm not a Napoleon Hill fan at all. And we got off on this, and he just couldn't quit talking. And I thought to myself, well, right there, the very first suggestion I gave this guy, he was all over it and all over me and for recommended and everything else. So I just kind of casually led it away from the coaching discussion and told him to be back in touch with me if he ever had any questions, because he never did. But I'm thinking to myself, I could have probably sold that guy into my coaching business because he needed me. But right there, I thought, man, we're almost in an argument, and he's condemning me for recommending a book that has changed my life. So I said, we have philosophical differences here, and I'm just better just steer him. So I told him to call you. No, I'm just kidding.
Now, how did this talking about me turn into you?
But we help people. That's what we do. We help people.
Well,
and neither one of us, you or I, would take anybody into our program or even suggest that they spend any money with us unless we knew that we could help them.
Well, the thing that we both do, and of course you can call me at 770-826-3662. We give out our phone numbers on this podcast because we want to talk to people. If we're not a good fit, we're not a good fit for everybody. There's a lot of people that don't agree with our philosophies. I've lost I don't want to say I lost customers. I've parted friends with people I didn't think was a good fit. That doesn't mean I don't like these people. I'm just saying that, they got it in their mind. They know what they like. And sometimes what you like is not what you need. I don't like exercise, but I know I need it. So therefore the point being is you either trust that we know what we're doing, you either like what we're doing, or if you don't agree, then we part friends. And it goes back to what this whole podcast was about. Love me, hate me. Yeah. Love me or hate me. That's okay. But I'm looking for the people that and the biggest thing is we have proof that it's worked over and over and over again. So with all that, I think we probably ought to call it a day and do another podcast here soon.
I think so, Mike. Thanks for being here as always. And folks, thanks for listening to this episode of Pest Control Marketing Live and the Pest Control Marketing Podcast. See you next time.
Hal Coleman has been active in the pest control industry for over 40 years, including owning and operating his own successful pest control business for 18 years. He now devotes his time to helping other PCOs and other WCOs double, triple, and even quadruple their businesses faster than they ever imagined. Be sure to check out his website, pestcontrolmarketer.com. For more information about Hal's coaching program, you can reach him at 770-993-0004 or email him hal@halcoleman.com. Mike Stewart is known as the Internet Audio and Video Guy. Since the birth of the Internet, Mike has been showing small business owners how to get more new customers, increase their sales, and grow their businesses online using audio and video, now with iPhones and Android phones. For more information about Mike's coaching program and his online training courses, visit MikeStewartCoaching.com or email him mike@internetaudioguide.com.
Google Pest Control Marketer. Grow your business like never before. Call 770-993 888-888-0000.